everybody, Dr. Peter Glidden here. Welcome aboard to yet another edition of Fire Your MD Now. To call me live today, the number, toll-free, 866-582-9933. That's 866-582-9933. Once more, for the boys back home, 866-582-9933. And if you're listening to the podcast and would like information after the live program has aired, that number, 855-347-3696. That's 855-347-3696, 855-347-3696. And, of course, 24/7 on the World Wide Web at fireyourmdnow.com. So we've been talking in the last few days about the rundown of the essential nutrients. We spoke about the minerals, and I'd like to finish up today with vitamins because, like the fella said, what you don't know will kill you or heal you. Now, most people are familiar with the term recommended daily allowance, right? The acronym, of course, is the RDA. And very few people, however, are aware or have any inkling of where the RDA reference values came from, right? This would be an interesting thing to know, don't you think? Where they came from? Well, let's talk about it. The RDAs were developed during World War II as part of a committee established by the U.S. National Academy of Sciences, right? There were three people that were, tapped for doing it: Lydia J. Roberts, Hazel Stiebling, and Helen S. Mitchell. Three women. I don't believe any of them had medical training. In any event, these three women were sourced with figuring out the RDAs, and all three of them had PhDs. Now, we could talk about the whole culture of the PhD. Basically, the educational system, the PhD program, was developed in Germany. And the PhD program, the way that you get your PhD is you go to high school and then you go to university, or in the United States, we call it college. And then after college, you get into graduate school. And when you're in graduate school, you apply for a PhD program. Now, part of the PhD vetting process is your PhD dissertation, the paper that you write in order to get, certified as a PhD, has to be okayed by a PhD committee. And who's on the PhD committee? Well, other PhDs. So basically, the way that this goes is the PhD granting system of education is set up in such a way as to prevent any type of thinking which is outside of the box. Because if you are radical, even if your facts are perfect, even if you've dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's, and even if you've proved that 2 plus 2 does in fact equal 4, if the PhD members of the board that are overlooking your PhD dissertation don't like your research, even if the numbers add up, you are not going to qualify to get a PhD. So the whole PhD process is set up with an a priori bias, the intention of which is to keep people thinking inside of a particular frame of reference. You got it? So, valuing somebody who has a PhD after their name is not perhaps the best idea. You should really look to their body of work before you come to the conclusion automatically that, they must be smarter than I am, or, I really should pay attention to what they have to say. Because most of the time when you're evaluating somebody who has a PhD, it's exactly the opposite. That really you should think twice before you believe anything that they have to say, because by virtue of the fact that they have a PhD, it means that they were trained to think in very narrow terms. You get it? Someone with a PhD has been trained to think inside of a particular paradigm, inside of the status quo, inside of a particular medical methodology. It was like, remember when Galileo said, oh, it's not the Earth that's at the center of the solar system, it's the sun, and it just seems to be that the sun is moving, and when really, in fact, it's the Earth that's revolving around its axis, and that's what makes the sun appear to move in the sky. Well, that thinking was so far outside of the box of, contemporary, accepted, scientific, rational scientific thought that they threw him in jail. Same thing happened to Dr. Semmelweis years later. Dr. Semmelweis had the, ridiculous notion that obstetricians, before they delivered babies, should wash their hands, and in so doing would cut down on something called childbed fever, which was a big, bad epidemic back in the day, before Louis Pasteur came along and anybody even knew what the heck a germ was. Dr. Semmelweis was saying, listen, wash your hands because there's something that you're transmitting from the surgical theater to the women who you're delivering the babies for, and that's what's causing childbed fever, because nobody knew what a germ was. They convicted, they thought Dr. Semmelweis was talking about witchcraft and voodoo and, these unseen spirits that were affecting disease. Well, guess what? They really did exist. Now we call them microbes, right? But because Semmelweis was thinking outside of the box, they kicked him out of the medical profession. They bankrupted him. And he was found hung to death in his apartment. Seemed like suicide, but those in the know at the time believed that Dr. Semmelweis was murdered, in fact, by the members of the status quo, the PhD, MD, members of the status quo. Medicine advances one funeral at a time, and really you should think 2 or 3 or 4 times before accepting as fact what anybody who has a PhD has to say to you. As a matter of fact, I would do just the opposite. I would rather trust the opinion, quite frankly, of an open-minded layperson than I would of a PhD. But my point is, the people that came up with the RDAs were all PhDs, and they have no, their training was in chemical biochemistry and, dietetics and stuff that naturopathic physicians and people practicing real clinical nutrition look down their nose at, and rightly so. It's juvenile and it's outdated, and here's how they came up with the RDAs. They developed arcane testing methods, right? So they would, look to see how many grams or milligrams or micrograms of a particular vitamin, when delivered to a laboratory rat, would get the rat to twitch his tail 5 times inside of a minute, or 10 times inside of a minute, or 20 times inside of a minute, or ridiculous things like this, right? This is how they developed the RDAs, with all of this arcane, outdated methodology. And, you can make the argument that some of the testing that they did had actual, a valid scientific method behind it, but all of the RDA determinations were determined to the dosages of vitamins which were required to have a body function at its minimalistic amount. So what was the smallest amount of the vitamin that rat needed in order to be able to twitch its tail? What was the smallest amount, right? They had no eye towards optimizing function at all. I mean, they didn't even consider this. This wasn't even inside of the theoretical speculation. Nobody talked about back in the day how to optimize function. What they were talking about when they were talking about RDAs was the minimum amount of these vitamins necessary in order to maintain life. Just to keep you holding on by a hair's breadth to this great thing, this great mystery that we all call life. And then, because these things were developed in World War II, when nobody even knew what the heck a vitamin was, and because vitamin therapy and actual medical nutrition is not part of the medical mainstream, everybody, once the work was done, everybody just accepted it as, de facto. That these are actually the correct amounts of vitamins that we need to be recommending for people to take, and it's nonsense. The entire structure of the RDAs is a house of sand. It's a house built on sand. The first reality wave that comes crashing in is gonna just destroy it completely. And this is what's happening. While we paid attention to the recommended daily allowances of vitamins, our health has gotten worse. Our life expectancy has gotten shorter. Chronic disease has skyrocketed. Cancer rates have skyrocketed. Autism rates have skyrocketed. Obesity has skyrocketed. High blood pressure has skyrocketed. And our life expectancy is getting less and less. So something must be wrong, right? Well, according to the MDs, what's wrong is your genetics. You know, they move the goalposts all the time, and instead of looking to their own house in order to see what it is that they are doing wrong, they blame the patient. Because it can't possibly be their therapeutics that are wrong. It must be you. So, you know, it's got to be genetics, right? This is the big boogaboo in medicine now with epigenetics. So it's all of this stuff that's designed to turn on or turn off genes, and it's nonsense. The medical doctors, MDs, refuse to take responsibility for the inadequacy of their treatments based on a priori assumptions, which they have agreed to collectively in their tiny, eeny-weeny, teeny-pea brains. So, my advice, pay no attention to the RDAs. Pay no attention, zero attention to the RDAs, because they are all houses built on sands. What you do want to pay attention to is results. Now, I've been doing this for over 2 decades. And the nutritional supplements, the vitamins that we're talking about in this segment, you know, the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, essential fatty acids, well, the vitamins that we're talking about in this segment, delivered by the Longevity Company, the recipes, the vitamin recipes delivered by the Longevity Company, some of those recipes have hundreds or thousands of times the RDA of certain vitamins, certain minerals, because the RDAs are arcane and outdated. Why do we have so much in our stuff, in the longevity stuff? Because they work. Because when you take these recipes with these amounts of vitamins, they produce results. Why do they produce results? Because these vitamin formulations are based upon decades of clinical experience by licensed physicians trained in medical nutrition. You should pay attention to us, not pay any attention at all to the RDAs. We are live with Dr. Glidden.
Hey, my name is Mac.
Mac, sorry, Mac.
That's okay, just don't call me late for supper. In the past, I have called you about dermatitis, sore joints, muscle tension, and soreness. But I have some additional things, and I've been on the program for a couple of months now. I'm still having fatigue, foggy brain, and I've noticed that I'm waking up in the morning with clenched teeth. What have been taking for the last 2 months is 4 scoops of Beyond Tangy Tangerine, 6 EFA, 2 ounces of OsteoFX Plus, 8 enzymes, 24 glucogels, 4 FluorFX, 12 seleniums, and 3 Smart FX.
Well, what happened to everything else?
Well, the joint pain is less, but I'm still waking up in the morning with my muscles. I think it's my upper part of my trapezius.
Yeah.
Is really tight in the morning, and I have slumped shoulders, and I wake up with the clenched teeth. But the joint pain is a whole lot better.
Okay. Did anything else improve?
No, nothing. Some mornings I wake up with the really bad muscle pain between my shoulders, and other days I don't have any hardly at all. It just depends on the day. And I've also was hoping I'd lose a little more weight. I lost 30 pounds before I started taking everything. I'm at 200 pounds, and I'm 5'10". I wanted to get down to like 170 or 180.
Yeah.
And all I eat now is in the morning I poach 6 eggs, and I eat the yolks only. I eat 4 to 6 ounces of hamburger meat at lunch, and then in the evening I'll have like rice and stew meat or rice and crawfish. And I think I'm completely gluten-free because I use cornstarch to thicken stuff instead of flour. Okay,
good. And you've avoided the other 6 foods, so you're avoiding all 10 bad foods, right?
Yeah, I stopped eating fried foods. I stopped doing all that stuff.
Okay, good. And is one of your goals weight gain, weight loss?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so let's talk about that first, and then we'll dial in the other stuff, okay? So weight loss is accomplished by counting your calories. The only thing that makes people gain weight is we eat too many calories. That's it. It's got nothing to do with exercise or genetics. The only thing that makes people eat too many calories is their bodies are nutritionally starved, right? So now that you've been taking the supplements and avoiding the bad foods, your body is not nutritionally starved anymore, or it's a lot less nutritionally starved. So the goal here, in order to lose weight, is 1,200 calories a day. So you need to figure out what 1,200 calories a day looks like. And this is one of the good things Weight Watchers and some of these programs are good for, because they really have the whole calorie counting thing dialed right in. Now, I don't know about you, man, but I have no conceptual, you could bet me $1 million to point out, to add foods up that would create 1,200 calories. I'd be clueless about that, because that's nothing that's ever been inside my wheelhouse. So you need to familiarize yourself with what 1,200 calories looks like, and then dial that in every day. Now, when you start consuming 1,200 calories a day, you will lose weight. You'll lose between a pound, a half a pound, to 2 pounds a week, and that's a good rate for weight loss. Now, if you want to accelerate the weight loss, there's a longevity program called ASAP. You can check them out at asapyoungevity.com. That's a very aggressive weight loss program. If you do that program, it's 500 calories a day, plus an extra nutritional supplement. You'll lose a pound a day. And there are hundreds, maybe thousands of people now in the longevity family who are doing that and accomplishing that goal. But, I prefer a pound a week rather than a pound a day, because it's much easier on your system, all right? So familiarize yourself, please, with what 1,200 calories a day looks like, and you'll start to lose weight, number one. Now, the other thing, the only time that medical nutrition doesn't work is if you're not taking enough or you're not absorbing what you're taking. Now, because for most of your life, just like everybody else in this country, you were eating wheat, barley, rye, and oats all of the time, the ability of your intestinal tract to absorb nutrients has been extremely compromised. So I'm going to tell you what our workaround for that is. We're talking to Mac about medical nutrition. So, Mac, here's the deal. The problem with wheat, barley, rye, and oats, a.k.a. gluten, right, is that when you eat them, they destroy the tissue in your intestinal tract, which absorbs nutrients. So if you've been eating gluten for 10, 20, 30, 40 plus years, then the ability of your intestinal tract to absorb nutrients has been completely compromised, and that ain't going away in 3, 4, 5 weeks, all right? It's going to go away eventually. But, it takes a lot longer to build something up than it does to knock something down. So it is entirely possible that, if you're 200 pounds and you're taking the 200-pound person dose, you're actually only absorbing 100 pounds of it, right? Or maybe 70 pounds of it. You follow that logic because your system just is compromised in its ability to absorb stuff. Now, the digestive enzymes will help. Avoiding the 10 bad foods is mandatory, and that's going to help over time, but that's a slow boat. So into the bargain in the meantime, here's what you can do as an experiment. All right, so for 7 days in a row, I would like you to double up on the white liquid calcium. And I want you to take 2 ounces of the white liquid calcium in 4 or 5 or 6 ounces, at least 4 ounces of orange juice in the morning, and I'd like you to take 2 ounces of the white liquid calcium in 4 or 5 ounces of cold water immediately before bed. All right? Take it in orange juice in the morning and take it in cold water before bed, and take 2 ounces twice a day. So that's effectively doubling the dose that you're taking now. Do that for 7 days and see if the clenched jaw in the morning and the trapezius tension diminish. Now, if they do diminish, that's a drop-dead indication that you just need to take more of the stuff now because your body's having trouble absorbing it. And, eventually that will go away and you'll be able to absorb the lion's share of the appropriate dose for your body weight. But in the meanwhile here, while we're fixing the problem and your body is healing from all of the past abuse, you might need to up the ante with the calcium, because those conditions that are bothering you now are specific for not enough calcium and not enough magnesium. Now, do this for 7 days, man, and if nothing changes at all in 7 days, call me back. And because there's another workaround for this, but if I had to bet good money, I would bet that this would solve the problem. So double up on the calcium for 7 days. In the morning in orange juice, and in the evening in cold water. Give me a call back in 7 days with a report. Thank you for your support. Thank you for sticking around. And the only time this stuff doesn't work is if you're not taking enough or you're not absorbing what you're taking. So thanks a lot for the phone call. We're going over to Marjay. Next, Marjay is calling in with a question about cancer, I think. Marjay, you are live with Dr. Glidden.
Hi, Dr. Glidden.
What's going on?
Okay. I have a friend. Her name is Teresa, and she's been living with cancer for 20-plus years. And, in fact, she's holding. The two of us are on the line trying to see who can get to you first. So is it possible for you to find her and put her on?
Yeah, we can talk to Teresa. I don't know if we can do a three-way here, but we can find Teresa right now. Teresa, you are live with Dr. Glidden. Maybe. Yeah, the guy at the board, see, I'm in Chicago, and the guy working the boards here is in Wisconsin. And so sometimes we get a little confused. So we'll try to get Teresa on board here as fast as we can. But in the meantime, you can bring me up to speed with what's going on with her if you know.
Okay. She's calling me now. Shall I see if I can three-way her in? Or just, cause I don't want to lose you.
Yeah, that won't work. What you could do is you could just tell Teresa to call the studio back, and then we'll drop your call and pick hers up. That's no problem.
Okay. Here's her history. She has been living with breast cancer for the last 20-plus years. She's had a double mastectomy. In 2008, it went to stage 3. That's when one of her sons passed away. Both of her sons at age 13 developed bone cancer, and one of them passed away in 2008 at the age of 16, and the other one is living with in remission so far at age 21. From 2008 till the present, though, it's stage 4. It has metastasized to her chest wall and the lungs. She was living in a place that had a lot of mold, and she became ill and had a cold, and this was in spring, and then just this past week, in the last week or two, she was hospitalized. She had both lungs filled with fluid, and they had to be drained.
Yeah.
She's on the Mighty 90. She does a macrobiotic diet. She does no fried foods, and I just turned her on to no gluten. And I also got her a case of Z-Radical. So she's taking, I told her, about 8 ounces spread out through the day. So that's where she is now.
All right. How much selenium are you giving her?
We're pressed for money, so she doesn't have selenium right now.
Okay. So I would trade out the selenium, or a couple of bottles of Z-Radical for the selenium, because selenium, 200 micrograms of selenium will reduce the occurrence of breast cancer. The occurrence of breast cancer by 82%. 82%. Selenium is a gigantic cancer preventive nutritional supplement. Now keep in mind, it's against the law in the United States for anybody but an oncologist to treat cancer. So I don't even want to intimate to anybody in the listening audience that we are treating cancer, because that's illegal. So what do? We recommend people who have cancer to, ask your oncologist the hard questions. And if after asking the oncologist hard questions, you decide of your own free will that you don't want to pursue conventional, juvenile, dangerous, and expensive cancer treatment, may God be with you. I completely 100% support that decision. And what we need to do is get on board with a medical nutrition program which supports and promotes the health of your body to optimize its function. So the program that you designed for her, or that you came up with, is perfect except for selenium. Even just one bottle of selenium a month, and that's $24, right? $24. will go a long way towards helping her body not get any more cancer. I mean, 82% reduction in the occurrence of breast cancer. By the way, that was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, December of 1998. The author's name was Larry Clark. And God only knows, well, I know, God's keeping his mouth shut about this because that's the way that God is. 82% reduction in the occurrence of breast cancer, I mean, that is gigantically huge, and that was in 1998. The breast cancer industry should have stopped short, should have pulled everything back, and should have given all of their money towards research, breast cancer research about selenium and mineral supplementation. 82%, are you kidding me? But they didn't do that because selenium is a naturally occurring substance, and you cannot patent nor profit from the delivery of a naturally occurring substance. And so instead they lean heavily on chemotherapy, which has proven to be 98% ineffective. All right? So the only other thing, now I have heard anecdotally of people who have had metastasized breast cancer, have gone on a medical nutrition program, and they've gotten on the other side of it. And this is a very, very good program that you have her on. The only thing that I would add to it would be the selenium. And listen, the stress of life, the mold and getting a head cold or this, that, or the other thing, the human body is a giant, amalgamation of connected parts. Everything is connected. And we're walking through a gigantic sphere of stress here on good old planet Earth. We've got, mental stress and emotional stress and political stress and financial stress and pollution, crap in the air, the food and the water, and, bugs and viruses and bacteria and all kinds of stress all the time. And the stress is affecting the body all of the time. And when we have the system's been weakened, initially, from our point of view, the only reason that people get cancer in the first place is because their body has been weakened by not enough nutrition, number one, and number two, eating all of the wrong foods most of the time. It's like putting diesel fuel into an unleaded engine. It's just going to run like crap if it runs at all, and you never tune the engine up, and then you wonder why the engine seizes up and the car doesn't run anymore. Well, for goodness sake, you weren't taking care of it. And then, you drive the car at 100 miles an hour. Well, the stress of life drives your body forward and puts a tremendous amount of strain on the body, and your body needs the proper nutrition to be able to handle that. But we don't get that in this country because nobody talks to us about this. This is why there's so much cancer from our point of view, because everybody's eating all of the wrong foods and everybody is undernutrified, and it is only a matter of time until those chickens come home to roost, the stress of life catches up with you, and then your system collapses at its weakest link. And, for a lot of people in this country, cancer will develop, not because she has a breast, not because she has a uterus or an ovary, or not because, men have prostate or lungs or wherever the cancer is, but because their body had a fundamental nutritional weakness. So what we do here, and it was the stress of the teenage boy dying, her son dying. Oh my God, I can't even imagine what that would be like, right? It's a huge stress all by itself. Even if you're 100% nutrified, that stress is going to rock your boat. So when we deliver a big life stress to an undernutrified system, a system that's already dealing with cancer, that's like pulling the rug out from underneath somebody and kicking them when they're down. And that's why she went from the frying pan into the fire. But I will tell you this. When you effectively change up your diet and you effectively nutrify the body every day, consistently over time, your body strengthens itself, and your body is more likely than not to recover its health to the degree that its health is recoverable. I've seen people recover from cancer. I've seen it. And we can't treat cancer, and we're giving cancer research money to all the wrong people in this country. We give cancer research dollars to the industry that has consistently failed after $600 billion of research to come up with any treatments for cancer that are effective. The only treatments that they've come up with for cancer that are even minimally effective are for these arcane leukemias that exist in kids. And, the survival time isn't that great for them either. So we've really completely failed in our treatment of cancer here in the United States, and Dr. Wallach and I are the only people. So, well, there's a handful of us. Suzanne Summers is also saying it, right? There's a handful of us who are standing up and saying conventional cancer treatment is juvenile, it's outdated, it doesn't work, and we need to stop giving these people research money because they have dropped the ball. Now, good on you for stepping up to the plate here. I can't think of one extra thing for your friend to do here outside of selenium. Selenium supplementation would be pretty important here, and so I would trade out one of the bottles of Z-Radical for 2 bottles of selenium. That's the only switch that I would make. So give that a try. Call us back with a report because we're keeping statistics here. And pretty soon at fireyourmdnow.com, there's going to be a page completely devoted to statistics where you'll be able to go into that page, and it's all free. Fill in your health condition, and we can keep track of how you're doing with this program. We're going to compile a ginormous amount of data, and then we're going to stick it right up the oncologist's you-know-what. Thank you so much for calling. Call us back with a report. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Peter Glidden here. You know, it's a tragedy of biblical proportions, and I'm choosing my words carefully, what we've done with cancer here in the United States, and quite frankly in the world. You know, the people that we give cancer research money to have completely dropped the ball, and yet we continue to give them money because we have completely drunk the Kool-Aid, which has made us all believe that the MD is the only go-to person in the world when it comes to medicine, and everybody else is a back-of-the-bus quack. And quite frankly, the only people pitching snake oil in this country have MD after their name, and we need to stop giving them our money. The only thing they're good for is surgery when it's necessary, trauma care, and a handful of infectious diseases. Well, you know, like this breast cancer patient, right, that was just on, or her friend was just on, and she had fluid in her lungs. Well, they can fix that. They do a good job at helping people, you know, handle stuff like that. That's what they're good at. But for everything else, they stink. And they're the leading cause of death in the United States. I mean, how bad does it have to get before we all collectively snap out of it? But don't get me started. We're going back to the phones. We have time for one more call. Rich is calling with a question about thyroid. Rich, welcome aboard. You are live with Dr. Glidden.
Hi, yes. My question is having to do with hypothyroid, and if somebody had a thyroid removed, what would you recommend to do in that circumstance?
Well, you know, thyroid. If it's hypothyroid, if the thyroid is still there, then we think about nutrifying the thyroid and optimizing its function. And in order to do that, the thyroid needs iodine, copper, and selenium. So iodized table salt is a really nice addition to the Healthy Start Pack and the selenium. So if it's an underactive thyroid, in order to support and promote the health of the endocrine system in the human body, the recommendation is 1 Healthy Start Pack and 2 bottles of Ultimate Selenium per 100 pounds of body weight per month. 1 Healthy Start Pack and 2 bottles of Ultimate Selenium per 100 pounds of body weight per month, plus the diet, plus the liberal use of iodized table salt. That's a really good strategy. Now, also, if it's an underactive thyroid and the thyroid is still there, you want to go to a good chiropractor and have them do a lateral x-ray of your neck, a side x-ray of your neck, and check out the curve in your neck. The neck should have a nice, natural little S-curve in it. If the vertebrae in the neck are not put on top of each other correctly, if the vertebrae are out of place or that curve isn't what it should be, and I've seen some x-rays of patients, the curve is the reverse of what it should be, or there's no curve at all. It's like they have a popsicle stick in their neck. It's really kind of scary. But my point is, if the vertebrae are not on appropriately, then the nerves that go to the thyroid can be compromised, right? Because the nerves that feed the thyroid come out of the neck vertebrae, the spinal cord that is in the neck. So you need to just double check that everything is structurally sound with the architecture of the cervical vertebrae, the neck the neck bones, right? So go to a good chiropractor and get that checked out. And if it's not a good curve, then the chiropractor can deliver therapy, which will put back the natural body curve in the neck and the rest of the back for that matter, because if the neck's screwed up, everything downstream from it is screwed up, and that's a good therapy. All right, now, if there's no thyroid, if that's been removed, then people have to be on drugs. They have to be on Synthroid, levothyroxine, or Armour Thyroid. Now, the pharmaceutical companies have gone out of their way to convince medical doctors that Synthroid is the preferred drug of choice when the thyroid has been removed, and it is not. Virtually 100% of my patients who I have switched from Synthroid or levothyroxine to Armour Thyroid feel much better once they start the Armour Thyroid. So I would demand, if the thyroid's been removed, that my doctor put me on Armour Thyroid, and if the doctor doesn't want to do that, find a doctor who will. Now, lastly, there are two thyroid hormones here that are of concern, thyroid hormone 3 and thyroid hormone 4. Thyroid hormone 3 is much more potent than thyroid hormone 4. Thyroid hormone 4 is what Synthroid or levothyroxine is. It's just thyroid hormone 4. Armour Thyroid is both. But if you're taking Synthroid or levothyroxine, it will convert to thyroid hormone 3, wait for it, in the presence of selenium. So if somebody's taking levothyroxine or Synthroid, just by adding selenium into the diet, you can dramatically increase the effectiveness of those drugs, making their experience and the quality of their life better. So, okay, check it out. It's 1 Healthy Start Pack and 2 bottles of selenium per 100 pounds of body weight, even if the thyroid has been removed. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden, ladies and gentlemen. See you tomorrow.